So I wanted to do something like this. Oh, Derek, what does it say about your football program if you go out and get muscled up, bullied by a Lincoln Riley USC team? It can't be good.
Yeah, you're in a bad spot. Not a spot you can't get out of, but it's that's not. We might have both expected a challenge and a potential loss. I don't think we expected
a loss.
That. That's getting bullied by a coach who hasn't bullied anyone since joining the Big Ten, and even, while in the Big 12 with Oklahoma, didn't really bully people in that way. Just scored more than the opponent in a league at the time where there was no defense, and likely often with Heisman winning NFL caliber quarterbacks, which Jaden Maeva is. Let's make that very clear. That wasn't a scrub that was dialing him up and dotting passes all over the place. And NFL receivers can't make that excuse for the fourth string running back, however.
Nope.
Not that a freshman can't be an eventual star, but that was bully ball presented by USC in the Coliseum, and it was unexpected, even from somebody who thought loss was very possible.
It's just beginning to end, getting pushed off the ball, not having success in the trenches, not able to effectively rush the quarterback and create pressure in the backfield, and then, like a third or fourth string running back running all over you. I mean, there were multiple times where within a split second of the snap, you just saw, oh, this is going to be a big run because Michigan got pushed off the ball. You don't see any second-level defenders coming up and filling gaps. Like, it was bully ball. Right. And if you had said before this game, like, hey, get ready for some bully ball, you'd be like, oh, yeah, of course. Like, this is a Michigan team after all playing USC. I bet they will just kind of push them around. Turns out it was just the opposite, and it was for 60 minutes. And I don't want to overreact, but I was just like, that's a bad look on your program, and it's really hard to not take that and like use it to brush a negative layer over the rest of the season. And like, what are you? If you losing to USC is one thing, but if you're going to lose in that way, like, what really is your team, and what can we expect from you for the rest of the season? And to do that, in that environment, was just like, it was very, very frustrating. And I'm trying as best I can to like not give into that train of thought where everything starts going off the rails, but it's really hard to not think that way.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Let's talk scripted. We talked about
we should.
Drives, and I don't know that it could have looked any easier for USC to open the game and any harder for Michigan. And they tried 3 passes, 3 plays, 2 yards, held the ball for maybe a minute, and had to get rid of it. They were saved on the next drive where USC clearly going to score again, but the tight end fumbles. And then Michigan put a drive together, but then got themselves even out of field goal range after a big penalty and then a sack that Bryce Underwood took that put him out of field goal position. And so one of those, awful punts where you're on the right side of the 50, but, you're not going to Dominic Zavada could probably hit a 60-yarder in some environments.
But that's not the place to try it.
But yeah, that's not the time or the place to try it when you could not stop anybody. They essentially, turnovers slowed the Trojans down more than the Michigan defense did. And yes, you could say, they helped cause those turnovers. Jair Hill punched the ball out. Definitely a pro Michigan play. The interception, Jaden Maeva made a terrible throw. That's more on him. Honestly, I feel exactly how you feel. And what I'll add is I think it could have been worse. Like, I think they're probably lucky to get out of that, game 31-13, to be honest.
Yeah, those were two. The interception was definitely a red zone turnover. I don't know if the fumble counted
I
as a
think by
red
the
zone
time, I
turnover.
mean, I don't know if it counts where the play started or where the fumble happened. They were
But
outside of the
basically,
red zone, but it was, they were basically red zone when it punched out.
and the way they were moving, it was like,
Oh,
I
they were
mean,
going to
those
score.
felt like touchdowns
They were going to, I mean,
taken
if
off the
he
board.
if he gets tackled there, he's probably at the 10, 15. Next play. I mean, they were moving like, and it was taking no time at all. That I have it right here. 9 plays, 63 yards, 453. I mean, they were going to score in the same amount of plays, same amount of time as the first possession. They were not able to stop USC. And yeah, I mean, I think the scripted stuff we talked about it. I mean, that's about the best example. And I really, really have given a lot of credit to Wink Martindale adjustments, the defense adjustments, and they just didn't happen. I mean, it was through the air, it was on the ground, it was
Yeah, it didn't
every
matter.
which way.
I mean, going beyond even the scripted drive stuff we talked about, like it's shocking when Michigan plays a team like USC that has very good offensive skill players. They like their receivers are just always open. And then Michigan gets the ball and everything is got to
Get
be in a tight
forced.
window. It's a
Yep.
contested catch. Like you're out there looking for your big body tight end to make a play over the middle of the field or Donovan McCauley to grab something back shoulder. Like that seems to be a bulk of the passing offense. And then it's I get jealous watching, Jaden Mayava drop back into a clean pocket and he's got a receiver and nobody's within 5 yards of him. And that just seems to happen all the time. And
Yeah.
I don't want to like pretend to be some kind of schematic expert, but I can use my eyes to, see what's happening. And
Hmm.
like clearly these other teams who have that skill advantage on offense they're very good at taking advantage of it and like making offense easier for themselves than Michigan seems to be able to.
I don't want to take anything away from Sharon, who was an offense coordinator on a national championship team, or Chip Lindsey, who's had some success at stops. But it just felt, and then let's not compare to Lincoln Riley. Like Lincoln Riley, I think it was said in the broadcast, got to be one of the best offensive play callers the game's seen. He's really benefited again from playmakers at the quarterback position. But quarterbacks want to play for a guy who can coach like that. And I thought the most fitting thing is they were having obviously some headset quarterback comms issues, and dude's on a walkie-talkie the entire game. I don't know if they decided they couldn't fix the headsets, the helmet comms, not sure what happened, but he used the walkie-talkie the entire game. And what you see when you see a walkie-talkie compared to just a headset down and lips moving is like how active he is, like just on that thing the whole time, as many words as he can get in before the 15-second mark. And it just really makes me like so curious, like what are the conversations on the field from Chip Lindsey, from Sharon Moore? What's the play calling look like? What's happening when things aren't working, and then you're coming out and it's still not working, because like you said, other teams somehow have made offense look easy. And even in Michigan's best years, a national championship year, they had some good offenses, but it's not like they were juggernaut, big play every single year they made the playoff. They had that potential and they had that ability. But again, outside of Roman Wilson, I can't remember, other than the Ohio State road game where both Cornelius Johnson and Colson Loveland were wide open, I don't remember Michigan receivers ever being as open as we seem to see every week when Michigan faces another opponent. Like even Wisconsin, with a backup, maybe even a third-string quarterback, like just able to throw dots because guys are just where the space is on the field, and for some reason, Michigan just can't figure that out, year after year.
Yeah. And we don't need to harp on this forever, but what did you think of Sharon Moore kind of taking that jab at USC the week of the game, talking about like it'll be sold out because Michigan's coming and you
Yeah,
can't back it up?
that's a confident coach who feels like his team is better. And I think you could argue that the team in some ways could be, but not how they played Saturday night. And, I think that comment isn't helpful. I don't know that, he had the best press conference in the world. I usually do tune into those, just kind of play it in the background. I'm so curious of what you say after a win, what you say after a loss. And just, he's always confident, one day at a time. And at some point, like, it's like, I'd love to hear, like, hey, this didn't work. Like, we've got a lot to work
Just
on.
say what everybody saw.
Like, it's like, professional coach speak. He got that from Jim Harbaugh. That works for a lot of coaches. That'll happen. But yeah, I don't want to get too far into, like, the conversation that really escalated, of like, is Sharon Moore the right guy? I'd sent out some tweets. It got really bad after I did, not because of what I sent out about time to talk about the coaching, but two things really bothered me. And it feels like we've seen some of these happen before, but in this game specifically, and these didn't affect the outcome of the game necessarily, but calling a timeout when, I don't even know if a review happened, and if it was expedited like the NFL. But I think he calls a timeout after they give up a huge play, and they want to know if the ball survived the ground because it got ripped out from whoever the defender was on the play.
Yeah.
So he uses one of 3 timeouts pretty late into the game. It could have been for other reasons, but it very much felt like hope they review this, hope this was incomplete. And then the one that bothered me the most is, like, you saw Justice Haynes take beatings, like a lick after lick. Just couldn't go, obviously. You say what you want about how he, mentioned it at halftime that he is good to go, potentially. Might see him, might not. But, like, I think Jasper Parker, Michael Capana, we talked about not knowing backup running backs at one time. I know him because they got in against CMU. Give somebody else some carries. Like, why is Jordan Marshall still taking hits late in the game?
He was banged up too.
And he was not looking good either. There's a whole possession I think he basically missed. Kind of out of breath, got some body aches or whatever was going on. It's like, he doesn't need to. Once you put in Jaden Davis, and we'll save that discussion for another time, but once you put in Jaden Davis, like, put in RB3 and 4. Like, you have a 1A, 1B system to go with the starting, lineup. RB3 and 4 probably need to get some play there just to save, health of a second good running back, because missing Justice Haynes was a big deal, because even Jordan Marshall was having some success running the ball. And I think if Justice Haynes is in there, they stand a chance to make some sort of comeback. But regardless, you can't stop anybody. You can't win football games.
All right, Derek, let's move on to a segment I'm going to call The Unethical Dad.
Yeah.
Here's the premise that I want you to weigh in on. I'm just going to, like, broadly stereotype here. Every guy who is in a relationship, whether that's dating, engaged, married to a woman, especially if you have kids, as we do, you come into this time of fall, and those dreaded words come up, which is, well, there's 2 sets of them. One would be pumpkin patch. The other would be apple orchard. And for some reason, it's always got to be like a Saturday activity. I don't know what's going on there. Are Sundays booked otherwise? It doesn't make sense. Are they closed?
For many, it's the Lord's Day. It's a day of rest.
Forgot about that.
Well,
all my cards on the table.
Just for my clarification, you're in a different state than myself.
Yeah.
When you say pumpkin patch, and what was the other one, cider mill?
Apple orchard.
Are those 2 different things, or are there situations where those are combined? Because, here in Michigan, we have a lot of cider mills where you could find both a pumpkin patch and an apple orchard. So just for clarification, state-to-state differences.
I have avoided these things for so long that I don't know the answer to that. Maybe
That's
they
fine.
are combined. I don't know.
That's the next part of the story, I'm sure.
Here's the thing. I'm trying to brainstorm. Are there ethical ways to get out of that? Or are you just always a bad person?
Let's go back to the stages of a relationship. I think it becomes more unethical
the deeper you go.
The deeper you go, unless you're so deep that there's already such a natural give and take of, like, and I say this is the challenging part, is when you say give and take, you're asking for 12 plus weeks in the fall of, take. But I do think, I think if it's like the dating stage, like, you don't want to go to a pumpkin patch, maybe that's not for you. Maybe the relationship's not for you. if
Let
the
me.
response is bad. But in your situation, I think it's tough because you and I now live in a world where we do things for our kids, whether our kids realize what we're doing or not. And you're, at a stage that's, a little bit more recognition of things. I'm getting there. There's definitely things he recognizes, things he picks up on. But a lot of those things get framed as like, oh, it's for a kid. And it's like, sure,
Yeah.
my kid will stand on a pumpkin, take a picture, laugh, think it's fun. But it's like, I don't know that I want to spend my Saturday doing that. So I think the first part to make it ethical is to try to find a creative solution to offer a different day. There are obviously 6 other days. You factor in the work schedule and the kid's schedule, that basically eliminates most weekday nights unless you can get out, do it early, combine it with dinner. And then there's Sunday. I'll tell you this much though, if we're looking at Michigan, Saturday, Sunday, they are both ridiculously busy. And for me, that's the ethical way that I would choose. Is like, I don't want to be around that many people. Like, we might stand in line for 15 minutes to get a, half-day-old donut. Like, I think
I
that's
understand.
fair.
The plan is a. Well, first of all, this thing is almost an hour away, because
Oh, that's, wow.
we live in the city. So
You don't have one nearby. That changes the dynamic.
and it's not. Here's the good thing: it's not an afternoon. It'll bleed into the afternoon, but it's not like a afternoon activity. So, I want to go back to what you were talking about with the stages, and kind of offer a counterpoint. When we're talking about dating, I think, 15,
My question
16,
is, what is
17.
dating? What is dating to you? I feel like dating's changed so much that, like, we haven't thought about
I don't know if I
dating.
can define it.
Like, we haven't thought about dating in years.
Are you going on dates and exclusively seeing this person?
Do people still ask each other, like, out?
I don't know.
Before you were married, before you were engaged, did you ask? What does ask? How do you even say that?
No.
Like,
No,
will
the
you
answer is
be
no.
my girlfriend?
No, I didn't.
See, I think that's faded away. And so dating, you could casually first date, pumpkin patch could be a cute idea. But I will tell you what, if that's the stage where I make that very clear that, like, this might sound ridiculous, but I don't see myself going to pumpkin patches very often on
Okay.
a Saturday.
Yeah.
And if I do, it will be around this dedicated 3 to 4 hour block of time that's usually between the hours of noon and 3:30, or 3:30 and 7:30, or 7:30 for the rest of the night, which is already eliminated.
Yeah. But okay, but the late think about late teenage years, you dating somebody who wants to go do this thing with you. I don't know. I'm looking back at myself at that point in my life thinking, like, is this going to cash in for me? Do you understand?
That's true. That's true.
So I'm just,
And
it's a
again, that
counterpoint.
dynamic is different early on because the cashing in, not that it's not important for the rest of your life, but it feels a little more weighted when there's, the stakes are a little higher. You're trying to
Yeah.
figure out, that next stage of life.
Have you gotten to the point where your son will, like, say bye?
Yeah, usually via ba or a wave.
Does he understand when you're leaving?
The house, I would say, and then daycare, I would say, but maybe not a pumpkin patch.
So what gets me is that if I'm leaving anywhere, it's just an onslaught of bye bye dada, and how am I mean, a piece of my heart breaks off every time,
Right.
I can only do it so many times. I feel like I've got 1,000 of them in a lifetime, and after that, like, I don't know, I'll just fall over or something, whatever
I think you can have
happens.
peace knowing that there will be a time where, like, that's the most exciting time of your child's day.
Yeah.
You probably those early dating stages, where that first girlfriend is maybe over, and it's like, I gotta go for a quick run. Can I trust you to? And it's like, see ya.
Yeah.
Here's my thing about pumpkin patches or cider mills in this case. What I noticed, and I did pull off a Sunday recently, probably within the last 3-4 weeks. Yeah, for sure. It was after the trip. I pulled off, hey, we could go right when it opens on Sunday. Successfully. I think there are probably a couple other factors in play. I think the day had kind of escaped us. It was getting late. Felt like, dinner. We're still at like dinner's at a, it should always be, but dinner's at like a certain time or kid gets cranky. And so we try to keep dinner pretty consistent time-wise. And it was like probably 3:30 or so with one about 30 minutes away. And it's like, we could make this all easier by just going in the morning. My beef is, college football is around. Church exists. So for those who aren't the churchgoers, open up early so that those who aren't overcrowding things at noon. And then on college football Saturdays, open at like 8, 9. Let a whole morning happen at the cider mill so that those who are interested in college football from 12 to 11 p.m. have time to go enjoy something. And best of both worlds, like it feels like a money maker. I would go to a cider mill every Saturday if it opened at 8 a.m. That's a perfect time for my kid. It's a perfect time for me to go out and do something and then still be back in my chair when I want to be. So those cider mill, pumpkin patch, apple orchard owners, make some more money.
If it doesn't, if our day jobs don't work out and we continue making no money doing this, let's go in together.
I'm down for that. That would be, and then we have to hire a crew of wives or children someday to kind of take over the management of it Saturday from noon to when we close. And then we might be on site and available, but we'll have our own little pole barn area where special guest VIP experience, watch with the dads, hail to the dad style. We can make money off of that.
Hey, you know who could maybe use a job at that place?
Who's that?
James Franklin. What would James Franklin's job be at the cider mill? Welcoming guests?
Yeah, I think welcoming guests. One thing that and this is when I knew things were bad with James Franklin. One thing that I always loved about James Franklin, and I don't know why I'd seen so many of these clips, but he started every press conference usually with like a very thorough breakdown of the opponent before questions were even asked. Like a lot of coaches will give their 2 cents and then open it up for questions. James Franklin always was so very thorough in scouting and sharing what he thought, complimentary in a lot of ways. And so yeah, I think a role, maybe a little bit of education about the apples, the pumpkins.
He could do like tours,
good vibe tour guy, or at least at the start of the tour to send you off. Maybe he manages the hay rides. He talks about all the things you're going to see on the hay ride, and then one of the younger drivers goes and takes over, and then he wrangles you at the end for a tip for the young kids, the next generation.
We all split it here. Yeah, I've got this hypothesis that you could put me up on a podium, like the coach, and throughout the course of a press conference, not know that I'm not the coach. Because I could say things like, yeah, really, really tough opponent, really well coached, well balanced, a lot of talent over there. I'm talking about any team and every team. Coach, well, what's going to be the key for you this weekend? Well, got to convert third downs, got to get off the field on third downs.
Got to execute.
Put it all together. Win the trenches.
I do think, not to take away from Biff Boji, because I think, leader of men.
Yeah.
I think your average football fan, especially your average podcaster, and we're above average, let's be clear. But yes, we could absolutely, once you got over the nerves and maybe some of the questions that were, out of left field, I think you could probably nail it, because they really truly don't say anything. I don't know if you saw Bryce Underwood's first true conference. He doesn't say a single thing of substance. And, a lot of that's youth. A lot of that's just his personality.
I think his media training, too.
Yeah, a lot.
I think they tell them, shut it down.
Yeah. And I think he takes that more literally. Everything's about executing. There's no what could I work on, what could you do better, what do you like most. It's just I like my teammates, the game plan, execute. I mean, it's almost hard to listen to because it is almost literally a waste of your 7 minutes because you don't learn anything. So yeah,
I think of the
even there, I think we can nail that.
I think of the beat writers who sit in these press conferences, ask these questions, and then it ends. They're like, "What am I supposed to put in my story?" Like, he didn't say anything.
Go when you have 7 minutes and whatever 40 seconds it is. Go watch it, get familiar, and then there is one part where he has a super candid, fun response, and even goes into detail. And I can guarantee you could have 1,000 guesses and you won't know what the question is unless you've somehow seen the clip.
I haven't. I'll go look at it though.
You've got to go, and then we won't remember this, I'm sure, but at least report back to me.
Okay. All right. Real James Franklin question though. What'd you think when you saw he was getting fired? And did you think it was going to happen?
So come full circle with the intro. Is the reason I said that is he was called out by one of the beat reporters saying, hey, James, just about every week, you start by doing this, and we noticed you didn't do that today. And he just kind of was like, you know what, you're right. That didn't happen. I don't know what he goes on to say, but it's like, 10, 15 seconds of his response of like, he didn't do it. And so that's how I started to feel like, things aren't good. And I think that was honestly maybe even only after Oregon. It's probably after UCLA. That would make more sense. But yeah, I mean, you see the result, and I thought it was one of the situations, Herm Edwards style, where he's not even making it off the field. Like, that's just like a total collapse with a lot of star power returning. And I don't feel super bad. I think a lot of people misunderstand what a buyout actually is. It's, the difference. I think he probably makes as much money elsewhere. It'll mostly be a matter of if he takes a year off, but I am not shocked, and I think we'll be even less shocked to find out he's the head coach, of, I think we talked about it, Florida Gators, a team that, is not super happy with where they're at and willing to move on the next slip up. And so, yeah, I mean, kind of a weird way for it to happen. Just like you can't hold an Oregon loss even at home against them in a whiteout crowd. Like, they've lost in front of a whiteout crowd before. The UCLA is like unexplainable, although they looked dominant against Michigan State. Not saying a ton.
It was a different team.
I don't want to say too much because now I just saw Michigan get waxed by a team that they put 31 up on in the same time, same station, same stadium. But yeah, I mean, UCLA doesn't look terrible, but that's a really bad loss. And then, yeah, the Northwestern is just like, that's the last straw.
Good for Northwestern, though.
Good for them. That's still a big win for them. And he'll land on his feet. Honestly, more than anything, I can't believe how long it's been. Like, that makes me feel old. Like,
Same.
I was in, final year of college, I guess, probably, when he was hired. And it's like, that was that long ago. Like, a lot of life has happened. And he's had his fair chances, and he's never been good against ranked teams. But yeah, it's still always weird when like a staple guy is like all of a sudden fired. It reminds me of who got fired? Basketball, Big Ten, firing Fran McCaffrey get fired.
Nobody really gets fired anymore except for James Franklin. Everybody mutually parts ways.
Yeah, was this
going
mutual?
in different directions?
Yeah, so it was Fran McCaffrey. He's coaching at the University of Pennsylvania.
UPenn.
Wow,
good for him.
Yeah, I mean, were you surprised? I mean, are we surprised at this point?
No, I wasn't surprised. The emotion I had was just like, it was so shocking to see Penn State actually lose to Northwestern. And then that feeling kind of carried over into, there's all this immediate speculation about whether James Franklin even makes it to the next week. And then he's fired on Sunday. I have a friend who works for a paper out there, and he had just published a basically, where does James Franklin go from here? Where does Penn State go from here story? Mm-hmm. And I think I clicked on it and read it. And then by the time I closed it, the news was out that he was fired. And so it just happened so fast. So no, I wasn't shocked, but like just the speed at which it all came at me in the course of 24 hours or maybe
Yeah.
even less, that was kind of the jarring part.
I think I saw the tribute post second. But the first post I saw, I thought was speculation, just the way it was worded or the way it was read. And then I scrolled a little further and was like, oh no, like it actually happened today.
How long do you think that appreciation post was sitting in the drafts?
I think a while. I mean, this year.
Is that a conversation that the social media team has? They're like, hey, this might happen. Go ahead and get something ready.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I gotta be. We'll talk about job related stuff, but I've been in situations where you've planned.
It's like the advanced obituary.
Honestly,
get it written so we can plug in a couple dates and numbers and be on our way.
One time that like the Rolling Stone just has like the longest list of pre-planned obituaries that are just plug and play when it happens. Because not to say that to them in the clicks those are of importance, so they might not know the reason or the age or anything, but they move really fast on those.
You just get that stuff
and I
ready.
think, everyone gets scooped, and everyone has scoops and an ability to get information fast, and teams can work fast. I've been on some teams, pandemic related, where like you've got to get an announcement out at 9 p.m. and you work, from 9 to 9:15 to make it happen. You get on a call with, me, the poster, a designer, and a leader, and you come up with the words and you go.
Nice.
But yeah, that was definitely probably drafted post UCLA at the latest.
That's funny. I like thinking about that stuff.
Who proves that too? Like athletic director, does that go to the president? Is there an assistant coach that gets to say? Does James Franklin get to see it before it goes out?
Would that survive in the metadata?
Yeah, it might. Where's he
For-
go?
for-
Does he? My final question for him is: does he go to the SEC? Does it feel like a sure thing?
I think he can kind of go wherever he wants.
I agree.
He's not going to be like an unwanted coach.
And I think he could find success early because I think, SEC, for example, there's a lot of talented rosters that already exist. Like I could see him having success at a Florida or an Ole Miss if Lane Kiffin dips. I've seen, and they did this with Urban Meyer. I've seen him in the Michigan State crew neck. That feels a little less likely to me. Staying within the Big Ten feels a little less likely to me, but you've got two power conferences essentially moving forward, and so I wouldn't be shocked if that happens.
Yeah. No, the Michigan State job at this point would be a pretty significant downgrade.
About UCLA?
That's a mighty challenge.
It's a mighty challenge, but you have LA as a resource and James Franklin who can recruit the East Side and has proven success.
If we were talking 20 years ago, that matters way more.
Yeah.
Recruiting is just not nearly as geographical as it used to be.
I don't know though. Go look at the rosters of Oregon and California. I mean, they're flooded. I mean, USC has they have players from everywhere, sure, but I don't know if it's as diverse as a roster as some of the Big Ten teams for sure. I mean, you can just tell by like a guy from Hawaii, when a guy is from Hawaii, like it's a name that's very clear. They're very proud of it. UCLA though. I still think SEC. He came from the SEC. Why not try to go coach one of those premier programs? Because those jobs open every year.
Yeah, he'll be able to get one for sure. Let's move on to the week ahead to wrap up. Obviously, we've got Michigan hosting Washington. That's noon. We can do quick thoughts on that in a minute. Elsewhere, LSU at Vanderbilt, also at noon. Ohio State's going to Wisconsin. That is going to be a bloodbath. Looks like Ohio State's a 25 and a half point favorite there.
Does anyone slow them down this year?
What's that?
Does anyone slow them down this year? Are they better?
Michigan. No,
possible.
I don't know. I don't know. It seems super unlikely, but I hope so. IU hosts Michigan State. Interested in that, just keeping tabs on Michigan State, but also, IU's going to come back home after the biggest win in program history. Tickets, the lowest ticket price right now is $100 $30, just to
Wow.
like give you an idea of how excited folks in Bloomington are. Um, Ole Miss goes to Georgia. That'll be a nice one to have on a TV, whether it's your main or secondary. And then the nightcap features two games, potentially three, depending on how late you're willing to stay up. But Tennessee, Alabama, USC, Notre Dame, and then at 8 o'clock is Utah, BYU. So good
Probably
action.
tune into USC Notre Dame. I mean, that's a good rivalry. I know you'll likely be tuned into that one.
Yeah,
And yeah, again, we talked about this against Illinois. Like the USC thing to do would be to go lose, that next game. I think Michigan State and Indiana is interesting because I think a lot of fans, Indiana fans maybe in particular, it's like if it was anything less than the Illinois, you'd be disappointed. But I think people forget that even just a week ago they struggled against Iowa. That was a really impressive win on the road at Oregon. One of the more impressive road Big Ten wins I can think of in quite some time. But the worst thing for Spartan fans, as much as they would love it, is probably beating Indiana, because I guarantee Jonathan Smith stays.
Oh my God.
I think they're pretty over the Jonathan Smith era.
Yeah.
And for Indiana, that's obviously about worst case scenario, riding higher than ever before and not performing at home against a Big Ten team who's not looking good as of late would be devastating. So obviously Indiana win is what I'm picking. Peacock only though, so you got to have a second TV for sure.
You subscribe to Peacock, right?
Oh yeah.
How could you not? I mean, in this age, whether it's college football or another sport, I think
NBA's coming to Peacock now too.
NBA's, yeah, because NBA is going to be on NBC now. And then is that it as far as the major sports go? I don't think there are any NFL games exclusive to Peacock. What'd you say? NASCAR. Do we know that NASCAR is ever on NBC? Is there any racing on NBC?
I would venture to say, well, actually, I think the early season might be Fox, because I feel like Fox used to promote like the Indianapolis 500, the Daytona. I think they promote like all of the big events, and the Indy 500, yeah, the Daytona 500, the Super Bowl. I don't know. I think Fox had a really dominant last season. Yeah. Where they hosted like a ton of major events, and so that's why I know that. But then, yeah, I know NBC is because I saw something. I think the race or something might have gotten moved for college or for NFL or something. But yeah, either way, I think Peacock is a must, and honestly, they're all turning into a must-have, which is kind of breaking the old streaming system that we used to love so much.
So, what are you making of Washington going to Michigan? Is it? I mean, we were pretty down on what just happened at USC, and Washington is not a bad opponent at all in a lot of ways. I mean, they're a little similar to USC, very high-powered, efficient offense. I mean, that preamble I think sets up how nervous I am, but I'll leave it up to you to tell me how you're feeling.
I'm going to miss this one in person, and tickets aren't going for very much anymore. You can get in for like $50 now. Doesn't make life good for a season ticket holder to sell them. I don't know that the excitement is there. I do think, obviously, maybe almost a touchdown favorite. Winnable game, you're back at home crowd, noon game, environment you're used to. But yeah, Washington, only has the one loss. And after seeing Michigan's defense get picked apart, you've got a dominating, sometimes run-first quarterback and one of the best running backs in college football, and Jonah Coleman. A little nervous heading into this one. I think my biggest thing is, again, we're repeating ourselves at this point, but can you somehow get a stop early or start fast? Can you have a healthy Justice Haynes? Obviously, a big question. And then my outlook moving forward is like more bigger picture. Can you avoid what happened last year? Because what happened last year fell apart. And I think this is where it's similar for me. I think USC is a better team than Washington was last year. But the reality is, because of the timing of the season, even with the Michigan loss early to Oklahoma, you had a team who probably was ranked higher than they should be play a team who was unranked, and the unranked team, quote unquote, upsets the ranked team at home. And the West Coast trip last year is when things really fell apart for Michigan. So what I look forward to, most is like obviously get the win if possible. Would love to see that. You'd love to see that. Kind of need that as fans so we don't spiral. Like you've got to avoid the slide. Because I think if the slide happens again, you lose 2 in a row. You'd be sitting at a record 4-3. You look at Sherrone Moore's overall record again at that point. It doesn't give you a whole lot of confidence, and then you really start to see the questions looming. So tough matchup though, and you're going to need to see something defensively to slow down Washington's offense for me to feel confident, because I can already see it. Like my confidence is kind of like slowly dwindling as the game goes on. And that's the most frustrating thing for me this weekend. Similar to the Oklahoma game, it's just like it just wasn't working. And like you just knew early that like this is not.
Just let it end and let me go to bed.
Yeah. Like that's no more timeouts. Like
no, knock it off.
Kneel the ball if you have to. Like, yeah, no, like it's so painful. And that's where I don't prefer the after hours game, when it's like late at night and you're still watching them.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
Noon gets it out of the way no matter the result, I guess.
I was about to call this a must win, and I think that term gets thrown around just a little too often. But considering, like you said, the fresh in our minds is still the collapse of last season, and it started really with going on the road and losing to Washington. I didn't realize until recently. I forgot that Michigan was the 10th ranked team in the country when they went to Washington.
With throwing for 30 yards in one game and probably 40 in another game before that. Did you?
I mean, like I forgot it, but then I also remember last season going into that game, kind of expecting Michigan to lose.
Yeah,
because it was very clear, like, okay, this is not a good team. Like, unless
they didn't have Davis Warren was benched, they didn't have a quarterback. You were hopeful Jack Tuttle was healthy. He came in, he had like a very quick spark. That game, and even the Illinois game, and even the Oregon game to some point, were winnable games at some point in the game. Indiana as well. And it just like you lost 4 out of 5. And so I think 4 out of 5, that's that territory where, you can't have that happen, and you might not survive your limited buyout at that point, to be honest with you. But yeah, they probably weren't the 10th best team in the nation. It's ridiculous that, they had beat a, top, 15 USC team, but they clearly had no quarterback. They had no offense at all. And I feel a little similar heading into the weekend, last weekend. Like, I think record-wise and potential of 15th, but like, USC, almost needed more credit because they had been playing really well. Even in the game they lost, a last-second field goal. And so, they were a field goal away from being an undefeated team and probably ranked as high, if not higher. And so I think it's unfair to look at the rankings and call those upsets one way or another. But yeah, I mean, this is a losable football game, and you look at the schedule moving forward, if that's how you're going to play, whether it's just even on the road, like you got to worry about a team like Michigan State, especially a Michigan State who could have fired a coach by then.
Yeah.
A Northwestern who took down what's still a talented Penn State team, a Maryland who, is always going to end up being shaky at some point, but, still has a pretty decent football team this year, even though they're not doing well in the Big Ten. And then, we don't even need to talk about the last game because I don't want to think about that one right now with how things are shaped up. But yeah, I mean, if you want to avoid 8-5, let's start by beating Washington for sure.
So the reason that I kind of backed away from calling it a must-win is because of those games you just mentioned. Like, that should be 4 wins in a row to go into the Ohio State game. Like, you should beat Michigan State, Purdue, Northwestern, and Maryland. 3 of those 4 are on the road, but those are 4 games you should win. And so if you slide again against Washington, it'd be way different if I'm looking ahead and still seeing games against like IU or Oregon, Illinois. That would make me question like, oh my God, what's about to happen this season? Looking ahead and seeing 4 very winnable games, I mean, that's a bright spot for me. And so I don't think this is a must win. And, if Michigan goes out and wins, I mean, just to take it even further, like they should be able to win 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games in a row going into that matchup against Ohio State. I mean, they should be a 2-loss team going into that last game of the season. So,
and I think we both. I don't know if we actually ended up doing predictions this year. We kind of,
no, I don't think we've done that once.
After a year hiatus, so I don't know if we predicted. I think we took a look at the schedule, maybe talked about what we thought. I think I probably had them, potentially a 2-loss team. I think the loss for me was at Nebraska, because I really felt like Nebraska was finally going to get one with Dylan Raiola and Matt Rule. I think we both thought an Oklahoma loss. We both talked about a USC loss going into the weekend. But yeah, I think those, Washington through Maryland, we had as wins pretty easily. And yeah, I don't think must win, but in the sense of the college football playoff, you're really running out of options, because unless you beat Ohio State, which is possible, you're going to be so far behind other teams. I mean, like every team except for the bad teams is 2-1, and then obviously a couple at 3-0 in the Big Ten. And so you do have a couple of 0-4 teams on the schedule. Likely, a Michigan State could get a win. A Purdue could get a Big Ten win. But yeah, I mean, Washington's playing well. They've got 1 loss, and they could go on to be pretty decent too. And you could have some decent losses. But yeah, it's a win does a lot for them, because I think if you lose, I think that's how a spiral happens. Is guys start losing confidence. I don't know how they got it back last year, and I'm glad they did. But they're not vibing off of that Ohio State win, that Alabama win anymore. Like, they just got pounded by Lincoln Riley. So some resetting has to happen, no matter what, and hopefully it comes by way of a win.
So what's your gut tell you for this weekend?
I think win this weekend. I feel like they can bounce back. I think, they're so big on like not making the same mistake twice, and I think that can be all areas of football. But yeah, if you're gonna punt it 24 yards and not be able to stop anybody on defense and turn pretty one-dimensional or have an injured running back, then yeah, I mean, it could easily be a loss. But I think get back home. You only have 3 home games left. You've got 3 out of 4 on the road after this one, like you already mentioned. I think the must-win, the pressure, I think they find a way to do it. What about you? I'm
going to go win, too. And, it's kind of funny that you mentioned Ohio State, Alabama. Yeah, those are very well in the rear view, not playing a factor anymore. At the same time, though, and we're thinking about, like, how did they even do that? Well, you got a head coach, Sharon Moore, who, say what you want about how it's gone so far. Like, he's gotten his guys up for big games, whether they won or lost them. This, against USC, maybe part of the reason that was so shocking is because it was really one of the only times, maybe the only time, where, like, Michigan was just absolutely outplayed in one of those games. Even when they were clearly less talented team, they showed a fight. So I trust Sharon Moore in that situation. I trust Wink Martindale. Obviously he was part of the staff that pulled it together last year at the end of the season. Bryce Underwood was, not part of the program, not playing, but he always looks so calm. Yep. And I think that's a significant thing for your quarterback to have. And so putting all that together, I think, like, I trust them to regroup and win against Washington. You're not playing, nobody's asking you to, like, defeat Goliath. This is just a quality opponent coming to your place. This one you got to win. I trust them to do it.
Yep.
Final verdict, do I go to the pumpkin patch?
That's tough. I mean,
I'm gonna let you decide.
check what time it opens.
Yeah.
You know,
Just try to get
the
there
beautiful
ASAP.
thing is no matter how far something is away, you can always get there when it opens.
James Franklin, if you want to come on the show and perhaps talk to us about your future job prospects, which may or may not include a part-time gig, no benefits at a to be named. What?
No benefits yet.
No benefits yet. We provide ample advancement opportunity, or we will, at the to be named cider mill, which presumably will open as soon as our lives go south. So probably in the next 5 years, I would guess. I might be extrapolating. But just come let us know what you think. We'll catch y'all next time, hopefully after a Michigan win. So go Blue.
Go Blue.